This video contains spoilers for Dead Rising. I won't go into the story in any detail, but I will show some late game content. Willamette, Colorado. Population 53,594. A seemingly quiet town in the mountains, with not much to do but kill time at the shopping mall. However, as we're about to discover, this, my friend, is hell. Dead Rising follows the story of Fred West.
It's Frank West.
Frank is a photojournalist investigating a tip that something big is happening in Willamette. As Frank arrives via helicopter, he notices riot-like scenes, but it's apparent that this isn't just a simple case of civil disobedience. It's quiet. Too quiet.
Almost as if everyone's already dead.
After meeting a mysterious man with impeccable fashion sense on the mall's roof, Frank enters the mall and encounters some survivors. His attention is brought to the fact that the mall is in fact surrounded by zombies.
What? Did you just say zombies?
The mysterious man on the roof was right. It's very much as if everyone is already dead. While everyone is busy building a barricade, a heroic old lady stages a brave rescue of her precious sweetie doggy Madonna. As expected, she fails. Zombies flood in, killing almost everybody. Frank barely manages to escape to the security room, where he meets DHS agents Brad and Jesse, and head of security, Otis. On Brad's order, Otis welds the main door shut. So Frank must use a vent to John McClane his way in and out of the mall, while doing everything he can to get the scoop of a lifetime. From the time Frank first arrives at the mall, he has 72 hours before he's due to get picked up again. During this time, Frank's main goal is to uncover the truth by completing cases. He'll also be contacted via radio from time to time by Otis, with information on scoops. These scoops are essentially side missions, typically consisting of rescuing survivors or battling psychopaths. The game clock is constantly ticking, and if a scoop times out, it can no longer be completed in the current playthrough. If a case times out, the truth will vanish into mystery. When this happens, the game can be continued, but the true ending will no longer be available. Frank will need to master time management in order to correctly prioritize cases, scoops, and generally just fucking about. In my first playthrough, I ran out of time for cases early on because I spent way too much time messing around with clothing, weapons, exploring the map, and an even longer time looking for camera batteries. Here's a tip, they can be found in any camera shop. The pacing of the game is a little weird though. You'll often have far too much to do all at once, but then at other times have nothing to do but watch time pass while waiting for mission triggers. Final point on time is that Frank can save the game by shitting for 0 seconds or sleeping for 0 seconds, which is possibly the best superpower ever. Frank can tear through the zombie hordes using a staggering array of weapons. These range from conventional weapons such as pistols, Uzis, knives, machetes, to improvised weapons like shopping carts, shears, baseball bats, parasols and footballs. Some weapons, and in particular garden implements, are extremely deadly. While others are useless or complete jokes. Surprisingly, one of the best weapons is the mannequin's torso, which you can actually find 3 of in the warehouse on the way to or from the security room. There are also other useful weapons which can be found early on, such as the katana on the Colombian Roastmaster's awning, and the Uzi accessible from the platform above the Kids' Choice clothing store. Weirdly, many of the bins also contain weapons inside. Perhaps they were used as dead drops for smugglers before the outbreak. First and foremost, Frank is a photojournalist, and the game rewards you with prestige points, or PP, when taking certain pictures such as those with dramatic, sexual, or violent content. Occasionally, unique situations will present themselves in the form of photo ops. Capturing these moments will reward Frank with a huge shower of PP. Other criteria for superior snaps include capturing numerous subjects at once, engineering comedic situations, or finding any of the 100 stickers on interesting objects around the mall. When Frank takes photos of an erotic nature, he suffers from a nosebleed, which I think is an anime trope or something. During Frank's search for the truth, he'll encounter survivors, which he can choose to escort back to the security room in exchange for PP. Occasionally they'll take a little bit of persuading before they agree to follow you, which is a perfectly valid reaction considering that I spend most of my time wearing toddler clothes with a shaved head holding a weapon. If you do convince them to follow you, that's where the real fun begins. The follower AI is terrible. They'll get stuck on walls, doors, each other, refuse to walk through open spaces, or even just straight up attack you. It's incredibly satisfying when you beat the odds and manage to save a large group of survivors, however. A zombie outbreak is a high stress situation, so Frank can expect to encounter several survivors in the midst of mental breaks. The game refers to these people as psychopaths, who fill the role of Dead Rising's boss encounters. What's interesting about these encounters is that each opponent has their own motivations for their actions, and although misguided, are almost relatable. These motivations can range from defending their property, war flashbacks, or a twisted sense of justice. One notable exception to this rule is the trio of convicts in the central courtyard. Their only motive appears to be mayhem. Since the courtyard is a common route through the mall, these convicts can prove to be quite troublesome, especially at lower levels or when escorting survivors. Luckily, they aren't too difficult to deal with and can easily be manipulated into getting stuck on trees or lampposts. Strangely, the convicts will periodically respawn, which seems out of place even in a game about the undead. Many of these encounters are completely optional, however beating them will net massive PP and unique weapons. By now you may be wondering what Frank intends to do with all of that PP. When collecting enough PP, Frank will level up. When this happens, a point is awarded in one of Frank's primary skills: attack, speed, life, item stock and throw distance, or alternatively a new move will be unlocked. The player has no control over what gets unlocked when leveling up. It's a semi-random system rather than specific unlocks per level. Despite starting off as a pretty average guy, Frank gets access to some brutal combat maneuvers. Some are useful for utility, like clearing spaces by knocking down multiple enemies at once, and other more powerful moves will instantly kill your enemy. There tends to be a combat move for just about any situation, and most of them are just delightful. One of the best things about these moves is that they can be activated when you have no weapons left. Some of my favourites are the overhead throw, even though it's a shame that you can't toss zombies over railings, and the giant swing, which is a classic move that scatters zombies but leaves Frank dizzy if overused. Later in the game I felt so powerful that I was walking into lifts full of zombies barehanded just to bully them. Killing wasp queens near a group of zombies will make their heads explode, causing larvae to jump out of their bodies. Frank can sometimes find queens bothering zombies, and can materialise a jar out of nowhere to trap them. He can then store that jar and smash it open later as a get out of jail free card. It's best to get out of the area quickly when doing this at night, because larvae, like their hosts, will become more aggressive. This happens every night from 7 PM, and is indicated by the larvae glowing green and zombie eyes glowing red. The game gets much harder when this happens. Zombies really lunge for you and seem to be more grabby. The chances are you're bound to lose a little bit of health. Frank can recover health by eating a variety of items in a hilarious fashion, like bags of frozen veg, packaging and all, whole baguettes, raw cabbage, frozen pizza, gallon jugs of orange juice and coffee creamer are all on the menu. Combining food in a blender will result in a whole bunch of delicious juice concoctions. For example, coffee creamer and orange juice for Quick Step, which predictably makes Frank move faster. Or ketchup and more ketchup for Spitfire, which makes Frank's spit deadly. Being a shopping mall, there are a whole host of outfits for Frank to try on. Admittedly though, I was so pleased with the outfit I found early on that I didn't care to try any others. First of all, I shaved my head with a letter opener, and then found some toddler's clothes. I think we can all agree this is an iconic look. Later in the game, I got access to a unique outfit by way of getting drugged by cultists and waking up in a box. The controls in Dead Rising are fine for the most part, with a few notable exceptions. Aiming a weapon routes Frank to the spot, which I didn't mind so much, but it doesn't hold up very well by modern standards. What I found most difficult was that weapons are aimed with the right trigger and left thumbstick, but the camera is aimed with the left trigger and right thumbstick. Using two different thumbsticks for aiming took me hours to get used to. Dead Rising has some nifty details. For example, when holding bowling balls, Frank's fingers will go into the holes, and frying pans can be heated up on stoves to burn zombies. I'll let you discover some of the others. Some of the details in the game are kinda sexist though. Like how only women zombies will bite men's genitals, and how Frank can give weapons to men and certain women, but can only hold hands with others. Suppose it's not all that surprising from a game that rewards the player for taking photos of zombie cleavage though. This section contains spoilers for late game content. Skip to the timestamp if you prefer to avoid them. After completing all cases, a Special Forces cleanup crew will arrive. Their intention is to wipe out everything that moves, including survivors. Frank will need to survive the night while being hunted down. I'd suggest staying close to the Colombian Roastmasters during this section for free refills on OJ. Since they wear protective armour, they're very resistant to gunfire and take about 40 rounds from a machine gun to drop. Like all things in Dead Rising, they fall like wheat before the scythe against the deadly might of the mannequin. Taking them out with Frank's hand-to-hand combat maneuvers is also effective, provided that you can get close enough. For reasons I won't go into, in the morning Frank needs to complete a scavenger hunt, collecting an assortment of items. This hunt takes him to multiple locations across the mall, all while the Special Forces continue to hunt him down. As the game comes to a close, there's an on-rail shooting battle against a tank that the game has in no way prepared you for. This is closely followed by a battle on top of the tank against the Special Forces leader, in which you have no items and need to rely solely on hand-to-hand techniques. In both my playthroughs in which I took different routes and got different endings, it seems as if there was way too much going on at the start and then hours of waiting at the end. Bosses, despite having interesting character designs, are generally not that enjoyable to fight. At lower levels, the fights boil down to hit and run, and then at higher levels, it's just a case of absorbing damage while steamrolling them, stunlocking them with guns, and healing. The game definitely feels like it's at its best when facing off against large hordes of weaker enemies, rather than single, stronger enemies. Luckily the former is something that you'll be doing plenty of. I played the 2016 re-release on PC, and visually it holds up really well, especially the reflections and gory animations. The number of unique zombies on screen at once was a main selling point of the original release, and is still impressive today. The game offers plenty of replayability, with multiple endings and unique rewards for completing achievements, such as killing 53,594 zombies, which is the population of Willamette. Frank's progression from a physically standard man into someone capable of tearing zombie heads off with his bare hands is really fun to play through. Overall score?
Fantastic!